Hi, my name's Judith, and I am here to introduce the wonderful Sarah. Sarah has a master's degree in social work from USC and a master's in public policy from UCLA. She has practiced as a social worker in Los Angeles, helping adults coping with mental illnesses, addiction, and homelessness. Her grassroots organizing began as a fellow with Obama's Organizing for Action. She is also the GOTV, that means Get Out the Vote, director for the California National Organization for Women. Sarah Jakle is the amazing National Outreach Director for Field Team 6, which is a very effective voter registration organization, minting new Democratic voters. She is a master at virtual voter registration, and I am here to tell you, voter registration is the key to winning in 2020.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the virtual pivot of voter registration. I am so excited that you're here. I know some of you are experienced activists in voter registration who have been doing it out in the field and are wondering how exactly we change that online. And some of you wonderful, amazing human beings are brand new activists who are wondering not only how we do it, but why we should do voter registration. And that is the burning question, right? How do we do this online? That we can not only do it effectively with phone banking and text banking, even walking people through a voter registration form. We can also use our time really effectively by focusing on registering our allies. And I will, by the end of this, show you exactly how to sign up and where to sign up for the voter registration events. I will also be telling you guys about a critical voter registration pivot during COVID, which is registering voters to vote from home. We want no one to die in the process of exercising their critical right to vote. So I just really briefly, before I start, I just really briefly want to touch on why we're here. So our founders, right, had a dream. It was the hopeful experiment that they called the American Republic. Now, obviously, it was deeply flawed in terms of whose voices were allowed to participate, but built into that model was the chance for growth and the chance for change and the chance for hope. And we are not giving up on our American democracy or the chance to make it work for everyone without a fight. And with that, I will now talk about our first slide and introduce you to voter registration. Again, if the slides are small, if you double click on that slide, it will come up bigger for you so you can see it. So what you are looking at is how we are registering Democrats where they are needed most to expand our House majority, to flip that Senate and put Joe Biden in the White House. So you are looking at the key battleground states for 2020. Now, one of those things that I talked about is taking back the Senate. Mitch McConnell, if Kentucky makes the mistake of returning him to the Senate, Mitch McConnell can sit in the back and watch as Democrats run progressive bills through that body. To do that, we need to take it. So we're looking at the critical Senate races in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Maine, North Carolina, 2 in Georgia. We're going to flip them. Now, there are also secret police taking people off the streets and putting them into unmarked cars. So we must take back the White House. To do that, we need the blue firewall of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and we're going to target those electoral prizes of Texas and Florida. So this is how we are going to target voter registration where it is needed most so it can have the best effect. Next slide, please. So why voter registration? Especially for the people who are new. Why would you spend your activist time in voter registration? So a couple things. One, as it says, voter registration is the ground zero of activism. All the things that people love to do. So the phone banking and the text banking and the postcarding and the canvassing when we can be out, they all work off a list. That list is registered voters. Every time you register someone, you put them on the list to be activated and brought out, but they cannot be activated if they have not been first registered. It is the ground zero. The second reason is specific to 2020, because in a midterm election, canvassing is the key because nobody even knows there's an election. But in a presidential year, about 85% of both parties will come out. When we add Democrats to the rolls, we are expanding our 85% to make it bigger than the Republican 85%. The last is my favorite reason, because I want to fight in every race. There is a moral clarion call coming from our national government, but we have seen how important state legislatures are. We've seen how important sheriffs are and district attorneys and mayors that appoint police chiefs. We need to be fighting in every single one of these races. You say to me, Sarah, that sounds great, but how do I fight in every single race? And the answer is you register a Democrat. And when you register a Democrat, you fight in every race on that Democrat's ballot. Now, I keep using the phrase register a Democrat. What exactly do I mean? Next slide, please. So what we are looking at is the difference between a 501c3 and a 527. Those are very fancy words, my friends, and all that means is that most voter registration organizations are 501c3s, which means they are legally bound to be nonpartisan. The organization I work with, Field Team 6, is a 527, which is a fancy way of saying that we are as free as we want to stand behind the values of the Democratic Party. What that means in practice is, instead of saying the phrase, "Can I register you to vote?" we might say, "Excuse me, would you like to save the world from Trump?" Now, our executive director, Jason Berlin, piloted this when he was a California Democratic field organizer in the 5 Southern California swing districts, which all successfully flipped to become Mike Levin, Katie Porter, Harley Ruda, Gil Cisneros, and Katie Hill. In using this method, he registered over 6,000 Democrats. And not only that, but he was so effective in this method that he topped the charts of all California Democratic field organizers around the country with the highest number of registrations for 7 months in a row. Because it turns out this is a really effective way of stopping people and getting them to register to vote. Now, the pandemic can make us pivot platforms, but it cannot make us pivot our effective partisanship. Next slide, please. This is why he got such great numbers and why this is so effective. And we carry this over into our virtual world. So all of our phone banking and text banking scripts to unregistered voters or voters that we are registering to vote from home start with, "Hello, I am volunteering with Field Team 6. Would you like to help me save the world from Trump and register to vote right now or register to vote from home right now?" This does a couple things. It does actually some amazing things. First of all, it immediately attracts our allies. So the New York Times said very eloquently that the one thing that Trump was actually better than Obama at was mobilizing progressives. When we open with a question like that, we immediately signal to our allies that they want to talk to us, they want to stop, and you know what? It bounces off the people that disagree with us. If I'm a Trump supporter, I'm going to hang up, or I'm going to say, "I love Trump," in which case we say, "Great, have a wonderful day." We're nice and respectful, and then we hang up. They bounce right off. So we spend our critical time registering people who care about the future of this country. Next, we reach an untapped demographic. So I'm actually really excited about this because the key with voter registration virtually is the key with voter registration in the field. We need to get them to engage with us for a second. So it turns out the question, "Can I register you to vote?" If you've been told your voice doesn't matter, you're not a part of this political system, you don't know that that question refers to you, and so you won't engage it. But if you open with an issue, a question like, "Do you want to save the world from Trump? Can I register you to vote?" you immediately give that person a reason why registering to vote is important. You immediately give them a reason to stop. And what we saw over and over actually in the field was people who would stop and say, oh my gosh, the country is bleeding out. Absolutely, what can I do? We'd take them through the voter registration form. And when we got to party affiliation, they would say, is there a difference between Democrats and Republicans? People on this call might think that's crazy. If you think Trump is a danger to democracy, how do you not know that there's a difference between Democrats and Republicans? And the answer is, it was stopping a different demographic of people who care about this country, but did not know that that meant they cared about politics. And it connects it to registering to vote and why it is important. There was a man who I walked up to outside a courthouse and I said, would you like to save the world from Trump? And he stopped. I said, can I please register you to vote? He looked at me and he said, you know what? I think it's time. He was 78 years old and he registered to vote for the first time because someone connected why. And that's why every phone bank and text bank, you can see the flies around, every phone bank and text bank opens with that question. And the third reason is we get to canvass at the same time that we do voter registration. So Field Team 6, we can mention, because we're that fancy 527, we can mention candidate names. We can do the really critical part of name recognition. So I'm actually going to read the end of the Arizona script, which says, thank you. Remember to vote for Joe Biden to kick Trump out of the White House, take back the Senate with hero astronaut Mark Kelly, and vote for Democrats up and down the ticket so we can make the progress that we need to make in society. We work in the amazing name recognition. We work in all that factors. It's a canvas at the same time as VoterReg. Next slide, please. So COVID doesn't just shift platforms. And I promise I'm going to get into the specifics of text banking and phone banking with voter registration and how it can be super successful. But before I get there, I need to cover what is different about voter registration as a concept during COVID. And the first one is, during COVID, it is not just about registering new voters, as important as that is. It is also making sure all of our allies are registered to vote from home. Now, notice the messaging. Polling actually shows that people respond better when you say vote from home as opposed to vote by mail. They mean the exact same thing. I will use them interchangeably, but when we are talking to voters, we like to say vote from home. So the first reason why we want to register everyone to vote from home is it's just good politics. So the Washington Post did a study that found that voting from home increased the overall likelihood to vote by 3.3%, and even more among young people and people who had a lower likelihood of voting. So to put that 3.3% in context, we lost Michigan by 0.05%. Registering Democrats to vote from home is good politics. Another reason is voter suppression. So the Republicans have shown that they're all in on this. They are aware that they are losing the hearts and minds of America, and they're clawing to power however they can by trying to suppress the vote. They will absolutely close polling places, and they will do it in urban Democratic areas. In the urban Democratic area of Louisville in Kentucky during the Kentucky primary, there were 616,000 people for one polling place. There were people banging on the doors asking for the right to vote. So no, you don't get to do that. We're going to end run around it and make sure our allies are registered to vote by mail. The other reason is voter intimidation. So the Trump administration has hired 50,000 people to police the lines. So absolutely this means walking up and down with weapons, and absolutely they're coming down hardest on communities of color. So no, you don't get to do that. We are registering our allies to vote safely from home. Thank you. And the third reason is, of course, the reason that we're all on this platform today, which is the pandemic. Not only do we not want anyone risking their life, and my God, I wish Mitch McConnell would pass this through the Senate so every American could vote from home, but you know what? We're not waiting for that cold day in his hell. We are reaching out and making sure that our allies can vote from home because no one should have to die for their right to vote. And we want no ally waking up on November 3rd and thinking, you know what? I was thinking about voting, but it's really scary out there and maybe I should stay home. So we register them to vote from home. The second thing we do, primarily in California, is we register no party preference as Democrats. This is basically a canvassing effort to no party preference voters. If they register, great. If not, we make the case. Doing this in California with our partner Grassroots Dem HQ, who is also on this conference, and it's great. And the third thing is the existential crisis. What Dan Pfeiffer was talking about when he said that voter registration had dropped off by 75%. And it is, how do we find the unregistered voters? How do we find what we don't know is there? And for that, I have a really exciting number I would like to share with you. Next slide, please. 2.4 million. This is the number of students in battleground states on a list that Field Team 6 has acquired, which we access with phone banks and text banks. 3/4 of that number are unregistered. Now, the other fourth we need to talk to, because we need to make sure that they are voting from home. Students have the legal right to vote wherever they go to school, and many of those students are now at home. We need to inform them of their legal right and make sure they are registered there and getting an absentee ballot. Now, a recent NPR poll showed that more than half of young people lack the resources to vote from home. So this is a really important effort. Now, I am especially excited about the unregistered part of this, you guys. It is the next generation of Democrats. It is an infrastructure who are key not just to winning in 2020, but to holding and expanding those gains. And we are rolling out the text banks and phone banks to support this in the upcoming weeks. Now, how can you register voters in phone banks and text banks? How do they see the voter registration form? How do we walk through it with that? You are looking at the first page of a voter registration link. This particular one is TurboVote. Now, what is exciting about this is that when you are talking to a voter by phone or an unregistered voter by phone, you can text them or say the link, or in a text, you can simply text them the link. And then that will take them to their state's website. And then we have the PowerPoint as volunteers to walk them through every step of it. So you're seeing the beginning of this link. You can see how you easily start. As you see, the link will take you to register in that specific state. You are looking at Arizona. And here is the spectacular news. 39 states have online voter registration. Every single one of our battleground states except Maine and Texas. And in both of those states, the link that Field Team 6 is specifically developing, that we are in the final beta testing with now, will show you how to get our new Democrat or our new vote by mail voter to a link where they can print, sign, and mail in a form, or have it pre-filled one sent to them. But for most states, you guys, we can walk through an actual voter registration form online with our new Democrat or our new vote by mail voter using our own PowerPoint to say step by step with them. This is an actual picture of the PowerPoint that you, the volunteer, are seeing. Next slide, please. As you can see on the PowerPoint, there is very helpful guidance. There is a wonderful arrow with click here to remind you to tell the voter of what they need to do to walk it through. Next slide, please. If you are familiar with voter registration forms, you know these are the same basic questions you are always asked before you can start. Are you a resident? Are you a convicted felon? Have you been adjudicated incompetent? Fancy question, which just means has a court found you incompetent? Are you a citizen of the United States, and will you be at least 18 years of age? This is the same exact process. And it's just that instead of standing next to the voter, walking them through it, you are both looking at the same screen, walking through each page. So slide by slide, you walk together through the form. Again, you see the very helpful arrows reminding you of the key things not to leave blank. So, this is a very helpful reminder to vote by mail, which is the key. This is what we're so excited about. One of our main goals, to protect our allies' health and make sure they can safely choose to vote. And more spectacular news. Every single battleground state except Texas, Georgia, and Iowa allows you to directly request a vote by mail ballot online. Georgia, Iowa, and Texas. Even in Georgia, Iowa, and Texas, the Field Team 6 link will make super clear how our new Democrat or new Democrat voting by mail can do that. And this is it. This is the confirmation. You just did it. You just registered a Democrat to safely vote from home, increasing the likelihood that they will show up to vote, or you registered a brand new Democrat to vote from home who will add to the overwhelming victory that we need in November. Congratulations. So this is a crazy statistic, and this is where we get Dan Pfeiffer's wife, who said that every interaction is an organizing opportunity. So the Pew Research study found that 60% of unregistered citizens have never been asked. So you guys, we reach out to all of our family, we reach out to all of our old college friends, we reach out to our acquaintances in the battleground stage, we reach out to our Facebook friends, and we send them a voter registration link and ask them to register to vote. We might put it in our email signature. Below your name is a reminder to register to vote, and that blasts out to your universe. We ask everyone. We make sure everyone's voice is heard. So Field Team 6 is actually debuting, as I mentioned, this fantastic link that will attract our allies, stop the different demographic, and be a canvas at the same time as VoterReg. If you go to our website, which is fieldteam6.org, and sign up for our newsletter, and I am about to show you how to do that step by step, you will get the very first look at this exciting achievement and the ability to send it far and wide. Sarah, I'm in. How do I do a voter registration event? I love that you asked that question. Thank you. You go to our website, which is fieldteam6.org, which is shown on the page, and you click on actions, which I think is the arrow that might come up, Judith, that shows you where to go. But if not, you can see on the page, it's listed at the top, and there it is, actions. Click on that. Next slide. Here you are at actions. You can easily see an actual calendar with events or access the events on our Mobilize feed. You scroll down to phone and text banks, and we have many events up and running to register our critical Democrats to vote from home. And we are debuting our student list in these upcoming weeks, so stay tuned. Now, I have the best news for you. This is just filled with the best news. So phone and text banks, as you will hear throughout this entire conference, are very effective. And phone and text banks for registering voters are no different. Field Team 6 volunteers in one day sent 100,000 texts and registered 661 people to vote from home. 661 people in 24 hours is a pretty amazing get for voter registration. Those are numbers that blow out of the water. And the thing is, phone banks are actually 4 times more effective. The thing is, you can just send many more texts in a shorter span of time, so they even out to be equally helpful, but they are both very helpful. And the other key with phone banks is that they're similar to canvassing, which some of you have done, where you knock on 60 doors and 5 people answer, and those 5 were critical. So phone banks are actually super successful because sometimes you will have long, wonderful conversations, but your call is a success. Even if you say, hello, would you like to help me save the world from Trump and register to vote? And they hang up. That was a success. Let me tell you why. First of all, research shows it takes 7 to 9 touches to vote. Registering to vote is the same. It takes multiple touches. So even if they just hear you say that and hang up, you are a touch to vote or register to vote. The second reason is research also shows that people are more likely to come out when they think their candidate can win. And people are more likely to register to vote if they think their vote will count. So every time they hear a Democratic volunteer on the phone taking his, her, or their time to call someone and ask that question, you put in that voter's mind, Democrats wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think they have a chance. And you make them more likely to come out for a Democrat and to register to vote. And the third reason why is it a success if you say that and they hang up, because you are reminding people that we are at an inflection point in our country. This is the most important election of our lifetimes. putting that reminder out there is an equally important act. So there is really no downside to this. Even when you get a bad number, you're cleaning the list so that campaigns can use it and use it for GOTV successfully. There is only success with this. It's just different types. And oh, the last thing is I have a motto. I have a motto when I phone bank. So when I'm going between calls, and I want to ground in between calls, because we're not just calling people or texting people for the fun of calling or texting. We're doing it for a reason. What is that reason? Have one sentence that you keep coming back to. For me, it is, I refuse to let fascism take over our country. Every few calls, feel your feet on the floor, ground, and remind yourself of that motto. Come back to your sentence, whatever it is for you personally, and then decide to pick up the phone again. This is great. So you can scroll down after you've signed up for the action. You can scroll down to the bottom and sign up for our newsletter. So why? Is because it comes once a week with an amazing message of hope from our executive director. And then it also allows you to access updated events easily from your inbox without having to go through a website. You can access our new amazing voter registration link as soon as it becomes available. And the third reason to sign up for our newsletter is for something I am so excited to debut for the first time on this call, which is that Field Team 6 is getting access to a list of purged voters. Voters where we can actually see that they were registered to vote and they are now inactive. Amazing people, we know these people want to register to vote because they've already done it. Actively fight voter suppression by joining these phone banks and text banks. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you will see as soon as these become available. Next slide. If you want to help out, scroll down to the bottom and sign up to help behind the scenes. If you have a little extra time in this new COVID reality and you want to help out, click Join Field Team 6 and we will get back to you. So lastly, this is the last official slide, but not quite the end of the presentation. So I am Sarah Jakle. For more information, please do go to information@fieldteam6.org. I bet there were a bunch of questions that were dropped into the chat that we are not going to have time to get to, and I would love you to be answered. If you go to info@fieldteam6.org, there is a whole team of people who are literally devoted to answering questions and making sure people arrive in the right place for what they want to do. Info@fieldteam6 is where you want to ask all of those questions that I apologize I'm not going to have time to get to. And of course, you can find opportunities at fieldteam6.org. You guys, with these 10 minutes, I would like to speak to you about how we go from having the motivation to do activism to actually doing activism. And I would like to speak to you right now as a social worker. So you guys, we are all being traumatized by this White House. We are all being traumatized. The tweets that come out, we're in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze. So it can make it hard to actually take action. You'll see this sometimes when we want to exercise or we want to eat better. We have these great intentions, but our brain tells us, you know what, that kind of sounds hard, and we have trouble actually following through. So I just want to talk about how we make sure that activism happens and why it's important. So why it's important is the difference between empathy and compassion. So empathy is the feeling someone else's pain as your own. So it's a critical part of being human. It's the mirror neurons that pick up and we resonate with someone else's pain. The problem comes when you're just helplessly resonating. You're scrolling through Facebook, you're watching the news, you're looking at the tweets, you're just helplessly resonating. Your nervous system starts to fill up. And when your nervous system starts to fill up, you start to hear things like, I don't want to talk about this. I can't talk about this. I can't engage this. I don't want to do this. And it's not that you don't care. It's that your nervous system is filling up. So it turns out there is a healthy way to stay with all these painful emotions, and that is compassion. Compassion is defined as empathy plus action. It turns out, and they did all these studies on Buddhist monks, it turns out that your nervous system can stay safely with difficult emotions, if you are combining that with the cathartic movement of activism, of action. So it turns out that empathy plus action is compassion. And when I said this to a radio host, she looked at me and she said, Sarah, empathy plus action is winning. She is 100% right. And the other thing that I wanted to do is kind of break down how we get from the intention to do activism and the intention to do voter registration to actually picking up the phone. To do that, I just want to briefly share a little bit about my own journey. So I was a social worker, hit by a car in 2013, went down on a couch. When I was starting to get up, I got psoriatic arthritis, which is a fairly brutal autoimmune disease, went right back down on the couch, was put on disability, and was told, this is where you live. And it is where I lived until 2016. Trump got elected, and I said, Sarah, you have to get up. You have to get up. But it was one thing to want to get up, and it was another thing to actually do it, because my brain was saying, oh my God, you're in a lot of pain. You are very tired. This seems very difficult. So I am a social worker, and I broke it down. I said, Sarah, just get in the car. Just get in the car. And that's all you have to do. And I actually meant it. If I got in the car and I needed to come back inside, that was okay. That was when I was in the car, I said, just drive there. Because this is 2018 and we're canvassing. Just drive there. Then I would just drive there. Again, if I needed to come, I could. Just talk to one voter. And that is how I got myself out. And I did this over and over until it actually became fun. And now I am a national outreach director. So it just shows that you can get in trouble. But what I want to say to you is break it down. Don't think, oh my God, I have to put Joe Biden in the White House. It's overwhelming. And oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Already overwhelmed. Just think, I'm going to sign up for one event. I'm going to sign up. Then when you get there, think, I'm going to do the training. I'm going to check it out. I don't have to do anything else if I don't want to. I'm just going to check out the training. Do the training, see how you feel. Maybe you just want to make one call. Maybe you want to make one call. You want to talk to one voter. You want to register a new Democrat. One thing. And keep making these benchmarks, because that is how we go from intention to action. We break it down. Because I'm so inspired that you are taking your time on a Saturday to be here with me, to be here with all of these incredible groups at this conference, and to be here with each other. People ask me why I'm ridiculously optimistic about this election, and it's because my job is talking to people like you. I get to talk to activists fighting for this country. That's my job. So that is why I am ridiculously optimistic. And I would love to invite you into that optimism, because when you engage with the activist community, when you see people coming out, people who haven't had time, who haven't had any, they're coming out now. They know that we are at an inflection point. They know, as Joe Biden says, that the soul of America is on the ballot, and they are showing up. It is one of the most inspiring things you will ever see. And the way to the cautious optimism that I saw someone talk about in this panel is to come and join an event. Just sign up, you guys. Just sign up. That's the first step. For all of you amazing activists who've been doing this forever, who've been showing up time after time, thank you. And I'm so excited for you to be mentors to the new people who are on this call and who will be joining our ranks. I see you, I admire you, and I can't wait to be fighting with you. And now I am done. This has been such an honor and a joy to get to spend time with you. I apologize that the chat has been going by and I have not seen it, so I do not know what's going on. But again, info@fieldteam6.org. All the slides will be available afterwards if that was a question. The slides will all be available on the website, so don't worry if this was a lot of information. They will all be available for you to review at your leisure. And take a moment just to thank yourself for showing up. Kindness is a political act right now. Be kind to yourself. Thank yourself. This is amazing that you're here. I'm so grateful. And let's win this, you guys. Let's win it.